examine. And I wonder whether you've done that. Have you? Have you stopped and actually began? Why is everybody just like, ask yourself, why does everybody go to work? Look, it's a really serious question. Why is it that people go to work? Why is it that work is in the daytime and not the nighttime? Like, you may never have even thought about some of these questions, but this is where you go to the next level of life. And in fact, on that note, one of the things that which is one of the things that I've been journaling about, which is the second thing that I wanted to talk to you about, is actually about the different stages of life. Because this week, I've really been thinking about how many of us in life don't understand what stage of our life we're at. See, if you've lived around this planet for more than kind of 23, 24 years, you've probably by now pretty much figured out that there's people on different stages of life, and there are people on different levels of life. Do you understand what I mean by that? So meaning that in your very town that you live, there are people who live in one-bedroom bedsits, there are people who live in a council estate, and there are people who live in 5, 6, 7, 8-bedroom houses in the same city that you live in. Now, we could say castle or village or town. Now, you could say Kasim, well, they got money inherited. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is there are in the same town as you, in the same country as you, there are people who there is that much difference in the levels and the quantities and the quality that people have in their life. Well, firstly, have you recognized that? Do you recognize that? And here's even an even more important question, which is what I was thinking about for me. Where are you? Where are you on that scale? And then on the other hand of this is if you've been around this planet for 23, 24, 25 years, you've pretty much gathered by now that there are different stages to life. Right? So there is a stage when you're going through your teenage years. There's a stage which is your partying years. There's a stage when you're going through your adolescent years. There's a stage when you're going through your education years. But much higher than that, which, before I continue, here's what I'm going to say. Those stages of life are very well defined. And I think you'll agree with me on that, right? But here's what I've realized. A lot of people, once we leave university, we lose track of where we're at in the stages of life, because the stages of life don't stop. For example, one of the things that I was talking to somebody about is I was explaining to them, listen to me, as a woman, you have to recognize that there is a stage that is optimal for you as a woman to have children. Now, you can say to me, Kasim, all about your independence and feminism and you want to have your workplace. But I was saying to her, look, you cannot defy biology that has been predestined for thousands and thousands of Darwinian years. We know that your body at a certain time is primed to have children. Before a certain time isn't ready. After a certain time is too late. My question to you is, if you ever plan on having children in your life, do you recognize what stage of your life you're at? Because here's my point. If you try to have kids too early, you won't be able to. But if you leave it too late, you also won't be able to. And your job is to kind of figure out whereabouts am I, and strategically think about your life and actually begin to plan it out to the best of your ability so that you can make the best decisions for you. Now, in me saying that, obviously, number one, that means that you have to be strategic. That means you actually have to think about your life and say, hold on a minute. So if I do want kids and there is a time when it's too early and there is a time when it's going to run out, when am I going to need to prioritize stuff, right? That's the first thing and a major thing. So a lot of people don't even think about that. A lot of people are just like, yeah, well, Kasim, I'll figure it out. It will just happen. I'm telling you that sometimes it doesn't happen. I was saying to somebody, that same lady, I was saying to her, okay, so you've said to me that you do not wish to have children unless you're married. On average, in order to get to the point where you're married, how long do you need to be in a relationship? For most women, ideally, most women would ideally like to know the person or be in a relationship with that person for 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years before they start getting married. Now, if you're with a person for that period of time and you wish to have a child, so that means you're going to be with them for 5 or 6 years. Let's say you're 30. That means if you don't find your partner until you're 30, by the time you get to the point of marriage, you're going to be 35, 36. You've got to start thinking, hold on a minute. So if I have a baby at 35, 36, and is that the prime for women to have a kids? Because if you, and again, this is where I talk about, you've got to be clever about this. You've got to actually think about some of this stuff. Because a woman trying to have children at 36, 37, 38 is 100% possible, but it's not probable. It's really, really, really difficult. You put yourself at higher risk of miscarriages. You put your baby at higher risk of getting things like ADHD, etc., etc. And I don't want to get into that. But my point is, you have to try and think about this kind of stuff. Because I've met a lot of people, women in particular, who've focused their attentions on their career, and then they've figured out later on that, holy crap, I've left getting a child too late. I'm now 33. I still don't have a partner. I don't know where to find a partner. The partner that I'm looking for is rare and doesn't even want somebody like me, because the person that I want is 6 foot, earns 50K or above, is good looking, is a good man. Well, all of those men are already taken. Or if they're single, would they want a woman who's in her 30s, who's been focused on her career, who isn't feminine because she's had to be very masculine in order to be able to get to the top of her field? So now I'm in a position where I feel trapped, right? Where I feel isolated. So what I'm saying to you is, you've got to try and think about this kind of stuff. And I recognize that a lot of us have never actually thought about this kind of stuff. We've never strategically thought about this kind of stuff. But the second thing that I think is also really important is to recognize where you are in your life. Okay? Because a lot of us, we are determining how we're doing based on how other people are doing, which is important. It's important because you can kind of use your grandparents, your parents, your friends to kind of use how you're doing. But here's what I've discovered. All of us are all on different journeys. We're all on a different life track because we all have different destinies. We all have different missions. But my point being is, there are some things which are set in stone, right? But there are other things which are flexible and which are only unique to you. Because, for example, you might say, actually, Kasim, I don't really want to have children, right? So for me, I want to be able to focus all my time on building a business, right? On making it the biggest business possible, like Apple, like Amazon, and that is what I want to do. I don't want to have a family. In that case, you then have to figure out for you, based on that time scale, where you are. Because if you are 65 and you're wanting to build a business as big as Amazon, you've really got to start reevaluating and thinking about this stuff. Now, if you're 20 and you're thinking about it, you may not have enough experience, you may not have enough knowledge, you may not have enough connections, right? You may not have enough resources to be able to do that. So you may have to go out into the workplace, get some experience, understand how the corporations work, understand where the gap in the market is, right? Meet some new people, find out about how logistics works, how recruitment works, etc. So now, when you're 23, 24, 25, you can start building your business. Does this kind of make sense what I mean by this, right? And so my point being is that as a man, as a woman, you want to begin to figure out for yourself what stage of life you're at. I have what I call the 6 stages of life, which are survival, security, freedom, mastery, pioneering and contribution, and then the highest stage of life that you can go to is what I call self-actualization. Let me run through these briefly so I can help you with them, because they may be able to add some value to the quality of your life. So the first stage of life is what I call survival. Survival is where the majority of people start off, meaning you're struggling, you're doing the best that you can. The key word that I give at survival is reacting. the key word is responding, meaning when you're on survival, all you can do is react, all you can do is respond, all you can do is the best that you can do. But then the level beyond that is security. When you get to security, it means that you've worked really hard, you put effort in, you worked extra hours, you worked extra on your marriage, and now you've got a marriage. Maybe you were really terrible with women, and now you've managed to get a wife, okay? And now, for what a lot of people do is they stop growing, right? And so the key word that I use here is maintenance. A lot of people, instead of growing and developing and fertilizing their relationship or their life, what they do is they try to maintain it. They try to keep it exactly like how it was in the very beginning. And we all know that there is no such thing as maintenance. Anything which is not growing is automatically dying by default, right? So it's actually better to grow something than try to maintain it, because it is much harder to maintain something than to grow it. And the thing about life is constantly wanting to grow. I mean, to the point where you look at things like trees or viruses. What does a virus do? It multiplies, it grows, it tries to expand to all of its capacities and the different areas of the body as it can. Beyond that, we then now get to what I call freedom. Freedom, the key word there is risk, because to go from security to freedom means that you have to create. Okay? Now, creating means that you have to risk something. Your money, your time, your resources. You know, there are some people who've got to a point in their marriage where they've hit a plateau. And to be able to take their marriage to the next level, they may have to maybe have kids, right? They've reached a point where they're like, man, we feel like something is missing. And it may be kids, or it may be that they need to reconnect with who they are, with taking things to their, maybe in a relationship, they don't have a mission for their relationship. They don't have a purpose for their relationship. And in order to take their marriage to that next level, they may need to talk about some things in their marriage they've never even talked about. Maybe start a course or a workshop in their local community to help young people improve their marriage, but they've never actually thought about that. Right? Do you understand what I mean by this? So beyond that, when you now get to mastery. Now, mastery, the key word that I use there is refinement. Refinement is all about taking what you've learned, taking what you've built, and now refining it. Meaning, you may find that you have money, you have success, you have everything, but the thing that is wrong is your health isn't in line. So that means you now have to go and realign your health. You may find that you are ultra successful, but you don't have a very good social life. So now your job is to diversify, or to delegate to the degree where maybe somebody is running your business full time and you work you work part time, and then you spend more time with your children, you spend more time on your hobbies, skiing, whatever it may be, developing a social group, right? Developing friendships. Do you understand what I mean by that? From that, then you then get to the next stage, or which is called pioneering or contribution. So basically, when you get to that point in life where you have everything, okay, I'm talking about somebody like Kevin Hart. You have money, you have a family, you have kids, you have influence, you have power, you have income, you literally have everything that the average person could possibly want: security, health, everything. You have a major problem which most people don't experience in their life, which is you ask a question of, what now? What the hell do you do now that you've reached everything? Now, most people are not taught about this, because most people don't ever reach this kind of stage in their life. So when you reach this stage, you have two options. You either go towards pioneering, or you go towards contribution. Now, most people go towards contribution, which means you go back and you teach other people, you go back and help other people, you set up a foundation, you set up a school, something like that. You understand what I mean? A workshop. But you go back and teach other people how to reach the same level as you have. A very few amount of people take things to a whole different level, which is where they go to what's called pioneering. This is where you have people like Richard Branson, people like Michael Jackson, people like Michael Jordan, people like Usain Bolt, people like David Beckham, who we talked about. There are a lot of footballers who they've done an amazing career. They've got loads of money. They don't need to work anymore. But David Beckham took things to a whole different level. He was the first footballer to start a football club, to then have a more underwear branding, and all of these different diversifications of his brand and of himself that he's got. A lot of people don't do that because you basically have to work even harder. Michael Jackson had made it with the Jackson 5, but he took things to a whole different level, right? With the Thriller album and whatever. So believe it or not, even when you get to that stage, there's another stage which takes things to an even higher level, where you now have what I call self-actualization. Now, self-actualization is the highest point of life, and the average person doesn't reach this. This is a stage of life where you have people like the Buddha, you have somebody like Oprah. These are the kinds of people who you get at this kind of level, right? Because you have literally done it all. You've pioneered, you've achieved success, you've got family, you've got happiness, you've got joy, you're healthy, you are influential, you have great friends around you. You literally have everything. And the key word at self-actualization is peace. Now, I didn't tell you what the key word of pioneering and contribution was. The key word there is fulfillment. At self-actualization, the key word is peace. What I basically say to people is, at fulfillment, at self-actualization, what you are trying to do is to put your house in order. Is to gather things so that you don't have to worry. Are the kids okay? Is the house safe? Is the next generation all right? Did I complete everything that I wanted to complete? Am I happy? Have I given peace to my parents? Have I forgiven my parents? Have I looked after them? Do you understand what I mean by this? It's a whole different level. Now, in me explaining all this to you, I'm explaining this to you because my point to you is a lot of people don't even realize whereabouts on that scale they're at. They have no idea what stage of life they're at. They're just kind of going along. And I realize part of the reason why a lot of people want to go down that route is because a lot of people don't want expectation. The thing is, when you start looking at things like where am I, what stage of life am I at, you now add expectation into your life. And a lot of people don't want expectation. There's a lot of people who want to be free. Freedom means people want absolute freedom. What absolute freedom means for a lot of people is, I don't want you to judge me, I can do anything, and you can't say anything to me, you can't judge me, right? I can say whatever I want, I can wear whatever I want, I can go wherever I want, I can start anything. You literally can do anything with no consequences. That's what a lot of people are wanting when they want freedom. The issue is that also takes responsibility away from you, because the source of manhood is responsibility. When you take on hard things and difficult things, automatically you have to have a responsibility. You have kids, guess what? You can't just do whatever you want. You can't just go out and get party and drink whatever you want. You have to be careful about driving because you got kids in the car. Right? When you take on a responsibility of being the boss in an organization, guess what? You can't just turn up whenever you want. You just can't call up sick whenever you want. Like, there is a responsibility, there's an expectation which is imbued with the responsibility. And a lot of people don't want it. And I say this to you because part of the reason why so many people I have discovered in my own life and observing other people, a lot of people are not where they want to be. They're not as successful as they are. They're not reaching greatness. They're not successful. They're not reaching their full capacity, is in part because a lot of people want freedom. A lot of people don't want to take responsibility. A lot of people don't want to imbue themselves with activities that are going to kind of constrain them to operating in a certain way. People want to be eagles. People want to be free birds. The issue is a society and a community cannot function when the majority of people are operating in that kind of mindset and that philosophy. And so I guess it's something for you that I would share with you, you want to think about. You may not think about it, it may not be necessary for you, but that's just what I've been thinking about and I have been reflecting on. So to conclude that, my question to you is, um, what stage of life are you at? Is this the building stage of your life, or is this the reaping stage of your life? Is this a sowing stage of your life, or is this the harvesting stage of your life? Is this the right, we've got to go 100% into everything, or is this we've got to put the brakes on everything? Question: when was the last time that you prioritize in your life? Do you need to focus on your health at this period in your life? Here's what I've discovered. You reap in your 30s what you sowed in your 20s. You reap in your 40s what you sowed in your 30s. You reap in your 50s what you sowed in your 40s. Meaning, guess what? If you do not, as a man particularly, let me talk to you guys because this is important. If as a man you spend your 20s partying, no focusing on mastering a certain area, because you know what I say to you guys all the time. If you want your life to be much easier, focus on one area for 10 years or more and master it. If you haven't spent your 20s mastering one area and focusing your full attention on that one area, you're going to have nothing in your 30s. And this is where it gets even deeper. If you then, you're in your 30s at the moment and you don't focus all your attention at focusing in one area in your 30s, guess what you're going to have in your 40s? Nothing. You're still going to be average. You're still going to be like everybody else. Aren't you? Which kind of, in fact, also now leads me to one of the other things that I was thinking about, which is that, look, I think it's really, 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 really important to take a review of how we're doing. How do I mean by this?